Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at the Agatha Christie, the ABC Murders. This is the 2016 version of the game, not the 2009 version of the game from Microids. Basically, there were, I'm counting 4 games in the Agatha Christie series that were released for Windows but aren't on Steam and probably aren't available for purchase anymore at all between the years of 2005 and 2009. And then this is the hard reboot of the series that is available on Steam. So that's pretty much, I think, all the setup we need to cover as far as any confusion. It's a point and click adventure game. And, yeah, let's see. Uh, I will be comparing this to the Nancy Drew Dossier game I just covered, Resorting to Danger, which was quite a mess. I know that there's a book series that has like a murder mystery for every letter of the alphabet, but the ABC Murders is just one book. That probably makes a little bit more sense than trying to have a 26 novel long series. But yeah. And I guess I am ignorant as far as Agatha Christie and her books, so this will be new for me. I have read all of the Sherlock Holmes stories, and that's about as much as I can say as far as mystery novels I've written. And frankly, for video games, there's rarely instances where there are true mysteries happening on. They usually dumb them down and make them fairly obvious. Although I think there are two schools of opinion, frankly, as far as mysteries in general, whether they're in books or video games. I bet there are some mysteries there that people want to be able to figure out before they get to the end of the book, whereas other people probably enjoy the mysteries where it would have been impossible to figure out who did it before you got to the end of the book. Sherlock Holmes is definitely in that latter group where very often there was zero chance that you would be able to guess who was the culprit, because there was just no bits of information that were shown. And Sherlock Holmes reveals he knew something or he discovered something, whereas Watson, who is the fictional author of the Sherlock Holmes stories, would not have been able to recognize that evidence and wouldn't have put it in the story. So yeah, we I'd like to be able to at least meet in the middle a little bit in any kind of mystery game. Um, that the game would at least throw out red herrings and give us reason and desire to want to think about who did it. Um, there is a point and click adventure series that, I guess we'll just go with Hercule Poirot. Oh, I did not realize Agatha Christie was the author of the Poirot character, although maybe the Poirot character is used by multiple people. So yeah, I could put my own name in here, but I'll just stick with the default. That sounds better. So you have, I guess, Poirot here smoking, and it seems like we're going for 600 ego points. Interesting. Which, that kind of does make sense, that a mystery solver. By default, we have subtitles on. By default, we have US, UK language. Music doesn't sound too bad. By default, it was at 1080p and high control. I suppose I could use a controller, but if it's a point and click adventure game, I think I'll just stick with a mouse. And you can jump to the credits at any point. Interesting to have the options and then have the credits as a sub button on every sub tab of the options. you might as well just have credits here, which obviously there's something here. As far as bonuses, I assume then we don't get any of these yet. There are 50 achievements in this game, which I assume we are going to they're going to label as trophies, which that would be more PlayStation focused, which fine. Seems like there's an effort to do lots of different mustaches, and each of these trophies seem like they are probably a hint to a silly action one can take to get a achievement. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those games where I barely get 25 if I just go straight through the story. Yeah, if we're going to play as Poirot, I imagine Agatha Christie is going to take some of a backstage perspective. I don't even know for sure if Agatha Christie as a character is going to show up in the game, but you'd kind of want to see her. And I suppose if this is a 2016 game and I'm playing it in 2021, then we are probably due for another one of these if they are going to do that. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised, being a point-and-click adventure, if it didn't sell as well as I would have liked, and if these 3D soft cell CGI animations were perhaps just a little too much. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the only time we see 3D and the rest of it is more hand-drawn. But that's enough setup. Have you seen the 50 treasures to unlock? Their bonuses? Nope. It seems like it's going to be all 3D. There's an economy of animation here that they're gonna...
Some post for you, Poirot.
Mr. Hercule Poirot, you fancy yourself, don't you, at solving mysteries that are too difficult for our poor thick-head British police? Let us see, Mr. Clever Poirot, just how clever you can be. Perhaps you'll find this nut too hard to crack. Look out for Endover on the 21st of the month. Yours extra. A, B, C.
Now there's an icon in the lower right corner. I don't know if that means skip.
But please
but then there's also a pause
Chief Inspector Japp
button in the top left corner. So Andover is either the name of somebody, or more than likely it's the location of somebody. It's not a terrible concept to potentially get a phone book, or a yeah, I guess that would be a phone book that has different people's names with different letters, and thus you plan to kill a mass of 26 people and get away with it, so that you can hide the fact that in that group of 26 people there is some number of other people that
Poirot.
you
the murder took
personally
place in this
have a
street.
connection to and want
Grim
to kill.
place indeed.
Tout à fait, Hastings. The streets of Andover are in a terrible state.
Look, there's Chief Inspector Japp. He's talking with a policeman.
Let us try not to get our shoes wet.
There's the possibility that the ABC killer is actually more motivated than just setting up a puzzle and is actually killing completely random people. Although if they are killing completely random people, that's almost impossible to track and follow. There is heavy suspicion that the truest of the serial killers in the United States that happened in the real world, people who have no method of operating, method of operation. People who just randomly killed people in randomly different ways, and the murders look completely unconnected. There's heavy suspicion that there's a lot of people like that got away with a lot of murders. Maybe they got caught with doing one, but they did dozens others without being caught for those. So, click on the zone in the scenery to go there. When the cursor changes, keep holding the click and move the cursor to the desired actions. New objective, go and meet Jap. Is that how? New question available. Is theft the motive for the crime? Interesting. This is an interesting logo. Certainly. And what this feels like is a LA Noire style concept without going with the full facial scans that LA Noire went with. And honestly, I think LA Noire did a very good job of making a detective game, but then really failed to make it meet the budget it needed to probably meet, because they added a lot of running and gunning sections that were kind of in contrast to what a detective game probably should be. And there was also a lot of open world driving sections in LA Noire that was just in contrast of where it should be. And I honestly believe if you took LA Noire and just abridged it to the point where you went to one scene and then you went to another scene to interview somebody, then you went to another scene to interview people, and you took out all the fluff in the middle, you could have had a shorter abridged series that would have been better. Right, so let's just see what the pause does. Pause brings up the menu. Apparently we are at 40%, 41%. What is this? I have no idea. Like, why is it just counting up in saying percentage? That seems crazy. This is our objectives. This is our notebook, which apparently has nothing in it at the moment. And this symbol here is the little gray cells. I wonder if those are supposed to be brain cells. Or connections or what. So, I suppose we click and just walk. And it's questionable, certainly.
Over here, it's Hastings and Poirot. You missed the 9 o'clock train?
We took the 10:30. Luckily, the service is good to Andover.
I wanted
So,
Jap or
Chief
Yup?
Inspector, what do we have?
The victim is called Alice Asher. She owned this tobacco shop. She was killed yesterday with a blow to the back of the head.
At what time?
Let me just check.
It's weird to have them try and get you to read two things, one at the top of the screen and one at the bottom of the screen. See, take advantage of the moments when the person you are with is busy in order to observe him or her. You'll obtain claims about their state of mind and personality. Left click and hold on Jap. We'll keep calling them Jap until we figure out how you really pronounce that. And then hold and move to the left to select observe. So, eyeballs. Find 3 clues that agrees with Hercule Poirot's remark. Move your mouse to guide your gaze. This is different.
Is Jap being too relaxed? Let us find the clues that prove it.
Let's see. Relaxed attitude. See, I would be looking for a necktie or something like.
Indeed, Poirot. We were used to seeing you judge people with more discretion.
Tip proudly at the on the back of the head. Relaxed attitude. This is weird to have a pixel hunt around observing people.
Indeed, Poirot. We were used to seeing you judge people with more discretion.
This is an odd concept, but I suppose it does make sense, and it's probably in line with what... Let's just go all over the place. Probably is very much in line with what the book says.
Indeed, Poirot.
And
we were used to seeing you judge people with more discretion.
I imagine there is a reason for that. Like, you would want to appeal to the book readers. But honestly, I feel like I've been all over. See, it changed color there. But...
Indeed, Poirot. We were used to seeing you judge people with more discretion.
So you've got this, like, blue. Slight smile. Okay. So there's like a color
Jack is in
to
a
that.
good mood. I bet he thinks he's already caught the culprit.
And that got me an achievement already.
The last customer to see Mrs. Asher alive left her shop at 5:30. The body was found at around 11 in the evening by an officer doing his rounds. The shop door was open. That's what alerted him.
Had anything been taken?
A little tobacco maybe, but you'd hardly murder for a few smokes. There's nothing of any real value in the shop.
What type of woman was Mrs. Asher?
In her 50s, married but separated, no children.
A husband?
Rats running by.
Aha, Franz Asher, the husband. Alcoholic and violent. It's said that he regularly insulted his wife and threatened to kill her.
Let's see. Ask his opinion versus say that's too obvious. I suppose this highlights the difference between a video game and a book. Like, a book could casually in a sentence just mention the way Jap looks, and then it would be up to the reader to decide whether he's being too relaxed or not. Whereas a video game, if it's going to keep people on track, it's going to have to question you and make sure you realize that it's more of an important thing. So now we've got dialogue choices, which... Are we going for ego points, and would we get ego points by jumping the gun and being obnoxious, or do we get ego points for doing the right thing, which would be to ask his opinion? Normally I'd ask for his opinion, but let's say it's too obvious.
A little too easy, don't you think?
You like complications, don't you? Well, this time you may be disappointed.
Peut-être. May I examine the crime scene?
Of course, old chap.
I'll be with you in a minute, Poirot.
And it seems to me like Agatha Christie as a character is probably not going to show up. Consistently, at least. Click on the arrow in the bottom right hand corner of the screen to display menu icons and inventory. I already checked that. And so now we're supposed to inspect the crime scene. And now we have our first victim, Alice Asher, about 50 years old, in Andover. So the way this is setting itself up is that it probably is going to be somebody with the letter A for the first name and last name and the location, which will be really hard if they get to the Z's. And even in the UK, you might very well have a hard time finding some letters. She owns a tobacco shop, which means she would have been easily well known, so you could have figured out her from the phone book. She was married to Franz Asher. she lived alone. I wouldn't be surprised if the phone books of the time, and honestly, they may not be phone books. They may be whatever the equivalent of a phone book would have been before then, as far as a neighborhood registry or a census record. I wouldn't be surprised if whatever records did exist actually did not list the females, particularly if it was a public-facing type phone book ledger. So finding an Alice might have been harder than it sounds. She was killed in her tobacco shop by a blow to the back of her head. The guy's not going really crazy here, because you could, if this was full insanity and it was just obsessive thoughts, you would kill Alice Asher with an axe in it and over. Or you would, you would try to integrate as many things with the letter A as possible, and then the B would be like Bobby Billy or Billy Bob with a bow in I don't even know a city in the UK that starts with a B. That's the problem that we're going to run into. Although we may not be in the UK, I'm just assuming that that's the case. We might be in France or anywhere in the Europe area. See, it does say A. Asher here. So this is, I guess, what we're getting as far as the point and click adventure parts, which that's not too bad. At the first face of it, it doesn't seem like we've got a hint system that we need to worry about.
This fruit and vegetable shop has a front row seat, therefore an employee might have noticed something.
Interesting. There's no, like, indication that there's something to look at some of the times. And that might just be the mouse cursor glitching.
This fruit and vegetable shop has a front row seat, therefore an employee might have noticed something.
And let's see, you transition to another area. You don't talk to that guy. Nancy Bodley, fruit and vegetable. It doesn't seem like there's really a lot to do here.
This place is run down.
Alright, so we are looking at the butcher's shop to recognize that it's run down, which seems unnecessary to realize that
this is a really cutthroat neighborhood. Anyone could have committed the crime.
It's kind of a different experience. Nice for it to tell me this late into the game that you automatically get autosaves. I know there was a point in the click adventure game where you basically have to use tape on a cat to make a mustache, and it's just like the craziest, weirdest puzzle that has ever been done in a point and click adventure.
This is a really cutthroat neighborhood. Anyone could have committed the crime.
It doesn't seem like you can skip if you click on the same thing twice, so I'm gonna have to be fairly careful as far as whether or not I choose to click on something. It doesn't seem like there's gonna be any indication.
Chap is in a good mood. I bet he thinks he's already caught the culprit.
Let's see. I guess maybe that window is different.
This is a really cutthroat neighborhood. Anyone could have committed the crime.
Yep. Compared to the Nancy Drew game, this definitely comes off as much more of an adult game. It's not holding your hand. It's not really giving you any help. If anything, this game is in danger of being frustrating just on the factor... Ooh, what's the hand do? That I might just get stuck in places and without some kind of hint system. Oh, and see, so that those other observations may very well have just been extra observations that weren't even needed.
The place is unusually tidy for a crime scene.
The Nancy Drew games also had scenes like this where you would have, well, in the Nancy Drew ones, you'd have about 6 or 7 different hidden objects that you were to click on.
Nothing suggests any sign of a fight.
Here they've integrated that in this game to an entire kind of open world sections, and they've made it a much smaller number of observations that you need to make versus finding random objects that don't really matter. It's not you need to find a key to unlock a arbitrary lock that makes no sense. It's just you need to see something or see 3 things to make an observation and a statement, which, if this is how the book is written, you're going to have a lot of Hercule, a lot of Poirot talking about what he sees. Observe an object from any angles by clicking and holding, moving the mouse.
It's not just any railway guide. It's an ABC.
So it's a railway guide.
It's
not a phone book.
Open at the letter A. There are no prints on the book.
And you've got a bloody bag.
Red liquid is oozing out. Is it blood? No.
Strawberries.
It's just some strawberries that are losing their juice. They probably come from the fruit and vegetable shop opposite.
Pretty low polygon there.
The counter is covered with fingerprints all on top of one another. Unfortunately, it will not be possible to use them.
So that was the 3 observations I needed to make. Collect ego points to unlock trophies. Discover the actions which give the most points. New question available. How can we explain the presence of the ABC guide on the counter? Am I supposed to be asking these questions to someone else? Or are these hints? Here you are making Poirot's little gray cells work. The aim is to answer the question he asks himself by establishing the links between the clues in order to deduce an answer. Hover over clues to see their description. Click on the clues with the left mouse to select and deselect them to answer the question. Oh, so this is a whole mini game where I could see some players thinking that this was a hint system. So we can't answer this yet. Interesting. And so we can't answer this one yet. Or can we? Well, we only need 3 things. So you have the letter. You have this. And you have this. And that seems like these are probably not the right answers. Like, okay. I get it. You need probably every option before you can even start to think. Well, apparently that gave me +4 ego points, though. Something did. I don't know if it was actually answering the question. And well, this is introducing an idea that I think makes a lot of sense. This is weird. This is so white compared to everything being so brown. You'd think it would be an object of importance. And I guess footprints don't matter. So we're gonna have to observe the body. We'll try and observe the shelves.
There are cigarettes packets in a mess on the shelf.
Interesting. I would have thought...
There are cigarettes packets in a mess on the shelf.
I would have thought that there would have been an observation puzzle there. Yep. This is a really cool idea, that you have to find clues through a hidden object game to then get Poirot's mind straight in the questions minigame, and you're going to have some observations and interviews of people, but that's not going to be the only thing you're doing. It's not just going to be all talking, and it's not going to just be all finding hidden objects that don't matter. Every hidden object we're going to find, I think, is going to fairly matter. She has a packet
of play cigarette next to her hand. Did she drop it when she fell?
I'd like to know if women actually smoked during this time, because it wasn't particularly common in the United States for women to smoke for a while. But maybe in Europe it was
this
more
poor
common.
Woman's head is resting in a very even-shaped pool of blood.
So it looks like she was hit with that. And Eleanor kind of gave up on the idea of investigating locations fairly early in the game. You'd occasionally do it, but then you would also spend about 70% of your time after that doing other things.
I can't see any other mark on the floor. I can't see any other mark on the floor.
See, are we supposed to observe
the
her?
body is hidden by the counter and is not visible from the tobacco shop store. Many customers must have thought that Mrs. Asher had popped out.
There is weirdness in the method of murder here. Why would you set a date, set a location, find somebody to kill, and then not have a weapon of choice on you to the point where you're just going to walk up to her and hit her with her own jar? Yeah, that seems inconsistent.
I can't see any other mark on the floor.
I'm trying to see what I've...
This poor woman's head is resting in a very even-shaped pool of blood.
Yeah, there's a disconnect here where you seem to get as far as over here, and that's the pool of blood, and then it goes as far as over here, and that stops the pool of blood, and it feels like there should probably be more obvious visual indications of a gap.
The body is hidden by the counter and is not visible from the tobacco
Either
shop
that,
store.
or I shouldn't be able to click.
Must have thought that Mrs. Asher had popped out.
I shouldn't be able to click on things that I've already clicked on. Because yeah, this is like the body. This is the floor. It feels like it would need to be something as far as like the shelf.
This poor woman's head is resting in a very even-shaped pool of blood.
Yeah, and it seems like we're going to end up getting a lot of this. Just... and I doubt there's ever a case where we need to click on something twice. Maybe there's something.
The body is...
And so we can double click. And I guess that's what we'll have to do. Is we'll just have to double click and skip through things. Like the game clearly says there's something else to click on.
I can't see any other.
It's not the pocket. It's not the 10, unless I'm supposed to click on something that doesn't indicate anything to observe. Or unless it is just a pixel. See, at this point you would think there'd be some way to use a clue, and I guess I can, but would that hurt me?
She just has one wound on the back of the head. There are no other wounds or signs of a struggle.
Yep. Exactly what I'm talking about. A major area where you can click to find the blood pool, and then news? Right next to it you have
an ABC guide with no fingerprints but prints all over the counter.
Normally the tobacco shop does not sell ABC guides.
Exact. Mon ami,
I'd like to know what an ABC guide is used for.
Some may have seen something.
Of course, my friend, I'll do it straight away.
It probably is like we have one clue available, so we want to be careful with that too. It probably is a case of a shopping brochure. Like, this is where all the shops are from this stop. Is there a motive for theft of crime? 11 p.m. Still missing a clue there. We do have this. No fingerprints on the guide. And then this and this is left by the murderer as a signature. Great.
The murderer deliberately left behind this ABC as a signature. The absence of fingerprints and the fact that it is open at letter A for Andover leaves little doubt.
And that gave me 5 ego points and an achievement. I don't know if we're going to get an achievement for every question answered, but clearly this is the goal. Was she killed on sight? No other marks on the floor. And she was alive. Like, probably it's the alive and the dead times. You would think those two would be the ones. But maybe it's this one and this one. She was killed on sight. It does a little animation that you don't click to go forward there.
Mrs. Asher was killed here. The absence of marks in the shop and the regular shape of the blood stains indicated beyond a doubt.
Okay, and that's 5 ego points too. And then the autosave is the mustache in the top right corner. The UI here is kind of all over the place. Like, if you're playing this on a tablet, you kind of would want the pause button in the lower left-hand corner, and then your most people's right-hand dominant hand for all the buttons over here. You would want this to show up on the bottom row and come off from the side instead of going up, because this only makes sense if you're playing in a widescreen ratio, but if you're looking at a game portrait, it would make a lot more sense. And even in a widescreen 16:9 ratio or whatever, it coming up this way doesn't do you any benefits, because it's not like when you click on one of these that it then brings up a sub menu. It takes over the entire screen. And then you would also probably want the autosave just at the bottom too. So I'm guessing we've missed a thing. And so we want to probably interview or talk to somebody else. Because what we're looking for is theft, a motive for the crime, and this was found in the area, and this was found in the area. And yeah, this probably is in the storefront, so I probably am in the wrong place. And you can make an observations out here, but I'm not sure that these observations even matter. There is a problem I can see with the engine that they've used to make this game, because I didn't look at the cash register, which would have been an obvious thing to check. So yeah, it would make like some sense if this was a better engine and you didn't have loading from one very small scene to another scene. That's so far the only real improvement I think I would really see that stands out. That, and possibly having the ability to have some highlighting of objects that can be clicked on. It's going to get fairly frustrating without that. Seems like we're going to have a bit of a mechanism puzzle here, so we're not getting completely away from the idea of having ridiculous puzzles, which is fine. I mean, that's pretty much any adventure game, hidden object game has those. Objects hide secrets behind complex mechanisms. It's up to you to decipher them in order to find out what they are hiding. Observe the object from all angles and by holding the click and moving the mouse. Zoom in by clicking on part of an object with the left button of the mouse. Zoom out by right button or clicking the arrow icon. Some elements move by holding the left click and the mouse and moving them.
The till does not appear to have been touched. I have to check that nothing is missing from it.
Okay. So just push the open button.
Something is preventing the drawer from opening.
Okay. So, right click. Over here we see 8-. Like, I don't know if old cash registers work this way, but new cash registers basically open by a switch on the bottom of them. That's why you probably would need the cash registers mounted. Although that's also the cheap office cash registers that very, very small businesses would have. Any big business would almost certainly have.
A mechanism has just made a fan click.
Alright, so we have an 8 and a 5. And so we could brute force it at that point to find the final number. Or you can't just pull the handle. Hmm. 8, 5. Let's just see if this opens. This time.
The till is full of money, but there is something strange.
8, 5, 2. Yep.
Something is hidden underneath.
Okay. Do you do 8, 5, and 2 in pounds? Or do we have to press a ridiculous amount of buttons to get to 852? Because that would be a lot. I'm not sure there's enough here to get to that. 8, 5, 2. That's easier. Thank goodness for that.
This must be the key to the back of the shop.
And so we're going to get objects too. We've got a new achievement. To use an object in inventory, slide it to an element in the scenery or a person. The object that you stock in your inventory can also be examined more closely. To do this, click on the object in your inventory. Where's the inventory? Ah, it's over here, so that explains why the other ones go higher. This is a very, very basic key from the looks of it. Like, very, very basic key. And then unless there's something about this ribbon that's supposed to open up and reveal some secret. Alright. So you don't click on it, you drag it? Yeah, you straight up just drag it. And so the husbands apparently did they say she was separated? Or was that someone else that they said was separated? No. Married to Franz Asher, she lived alone. So she did live in the back of her tobacco shop alone. It would be certainly crazy if it turned out that there was more to the story and she was intentionally targeted.
Blood.
She seems to be...
Did Alice Asher suffer from nosebleeds?
Either she was eating strawberries in bed, or she's got pneumonia or something, coughing up blood. She's got a photo that's knocked down.
An
I cannot
inscription
read that.
German. Souvenir of our honeymoon in the Black Forest. To my Alice forever, Franz Asher. The Ashers were a lovely couple when they were young.
I gotta love that. So many games just tell you to read something, and I'm sitting 10 feet across the room looking at a TV, so Like, sure, if I was playing this normally like a PC game, my face would be a foot away from a monitor. I'd be able to read it. Although sometimes they put it in weird fonts anyway, so I can barely read it even in that case. So I really appreciate when they decide to make it easier on a person and
such a pretty decoration should be at the center of the motif to respect the symmetry.
Okay. So probably want to find a way to get this to go somewhere else, but I guess there may not be that many options. So start inside out. You have two options here. You can either have this or you can have this. And then from that, I think they're trying not to really throw you crazy because you have an upward pointing one there that won't even lock in place. And that's it. So that's not the answer. So it's either going to be that one or that one or that one. And since it's not any of those, then we can just go ahead and assume that it's this. And then we can keep going this way. Unless I'm supposed to move this here, which might be the case. Yep, this is more complicated than it seemed at first glance. These do seem to only stop at specific steps, however. So I may find myself in the wrong place. What I would need, something like this. And then when you've got it spinning like that, you can't use that. What? Oh, this is irritating. There was a solution, and I've gone and made this terrible. Is there a reset button? Let's just reset. Let's see. Let's leave and try that again. We're gonna go fairly long because
such a pretty decor.
So there. That's not what it looked like. It wasn't the pattern. It was here. There.
I heard a faint sound as if something was unlocked.
Suppose that's a decent puzzle if you can manage to set yourself on the wrong path and cause it to be a lot more complicated and difficult.
It is blocked.
Well, is there something more to this? Or do we need a key? It doesn't seem like they're going to intentionally let you let's see. It doesn't seem like they're going to let you see the bottom of things. I'm just spinning them until I hear a sound effect. Which I suppose is what's supposed to happen here. But they were hearing two different sound effects. I bet if I had looked over here, I might have been able to. That makes a sound when you click on that, but none of the others make a sound. Interesting. Okay, well, can we see how many ego points we have? That's the real question, I suppose, and I guess the answer is probably no. So, it also, I guess, doesn't really matter, because if we were to go quit the game, I don't know if that's going to exit to the main menu, or if that's going to just in the exit to the desktop. It seems strange that you wouldn't be able to see ego points throughout the entirety of the game, but maybe we'll get a chapter recap. Chapters do seem like they are going to be fairly long. And let's see, we can solve this now. Take that off, put that there. And we probably want to solve these quicker than we think.
The motive is definitely not financial gain. There is no sign of a struggle, and the till has not been forced or emptied.
Yep. Way better voice acting than the Nancy Drew game, in which there was just a ton of text and dialogue that was just not voice acted. Nicer animation. Maybe it's asking a little too much to go with 3D modeling. Although maybe it isn't, even in 2016, because like if you were today to make a point-and-click adventure game that... Interesting, that percentage sign also went away. If you were to make a 3D point-and-click adventure game today, you could go to the Unity or the Unreal Asset Store. Probably you would use the Unity engine. And you could pre-buy 3D models of tables and people and animations that make the people move and act in certain ways. You would then have to reskin all of that so it has a consistent art style and doesn't just look terrible. But yeah, tables, chairs, beds, cash registers, shops, shelves, things on shelves, streets, drains, all of those things could be purchased relatively cheaply, already made, compared to having to pay a 3D modeler to do something new with it, new from scratch. Whereas if you were going to use flat 2D hand-drawn animation, that pretty much starts from scratch. You're not really going to have a consistent art style that looks good if you try to use models or examples or trace things. You can maybe cheat a little bit with tracing, but that's it. So perhaps in 2016 and perhaps now, it is easier to make a soft cell CG looking 3D game that is a hidden object mystery adventure game than it is to make a flat 2D animation game. Although in Nancy Drew's case, they tried to do that far too early, and you ran into a scenario where they did not have space or skill to actually animate people, and there were several scenes where the person's talking were not even facing the camera, so you would just see the back of their heads, which was very weird. And then definitely compared to the Nancy Drew game, we've been playing for an hour now, and I've had a decent amount of fun, whereas I was exhausted and not super thrilled with Nancy Drew by about 30 minutes. I'd kind of seen the way it was going to go. And that is true for a lot of hidden object games, and that's why I don't really see a desire to play a lot of them, even though there are tons of them that get released on Steam, is that a standard hidden object adventure game just is so by the numbers and so redundant that they can't possibly give you anything interesting or new. And the ABC Murders has potentially that problem where it has to overcome that, but it is going to throw in also point-and-click adventure game elements enough so it gets away from being a hidden object adventure game. And the slight difference there is that a hidden object adventure game tends to be fairly linear. It tends not really to have difficult puzzles. It tends to be fairly cheaply made. And that's weird to define a genre by the quality of the genre, but that is, in my mind, the best way to divide it. I would not call this a hidden object adventure game, even though it does have hidden object scenes, and it is an adventure game. It's much more of a point-and-click game because we're going to be interacting with more people and actually trying to solve difficult puzzles. It's a very subjective differentiation. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. I will be interested to see how long this game is, because this could get very long. If it's a 5 to 10 hour game, fine. If it turns into a 15 to 60 hour game, it's going to have to get really, really interesting. So far as guessing who the murderer is, it's my suspicion is somebody who wanted to murder somebody, probably not this first character, and is using the ABC concept as a way of hiding their true victim, because the lack of using an axe to kill somebody, having the murder weapon not start with the letter A, and not being prepared really to kill somebody, seems to strike at a lack of preparation and a lack of obsession. So it feels like somebody is trying to pretend like they're crazy when they aren't actually obsessive. That would be my guess. Either that, or it's somebody who personally just is upset with Poirot and is trying to give Poirot a challenge for the fun of it. And that might be the case too. Anyways, that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.